Hi, Cindy. How are you?
Hey Don, good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I think this is going to be fun. I'm just for our viewers' benefit. We're going to talk about retail and non-retail electoral politics in the United States through two perspectives. First, I'm going to speak with you about your experience as a candidate running for office for the Congress, and also I know you were in the hat mix for a while for the Green Party presidential candidate. That's where I first met you. Actually, was out in the Bay Area at a press conference, and then. You're going to interview me about my experience in local politics here in Westchester, and I'll kind of give a breakdown of what the bottom of this edifice looks like and how it works. So,
Okay.
so let's see. First of all, could you tell us what offices you've run for, and ballpark the time frame?
All right. So in '08, like as you said, I ran for Congress against Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco, which the entire district is San Francisco. So it doesn't like branch out to other counties or anything. And then I don't know why that's important, but
Well,
and then in 2012, I ran for vice president. And so in '08, I was political independent. And then in the beginning of 2009, I registered with the Peace and Freedom Party, the Socialist Party. They call themselves Socialist Feminist Party here in California. And we basically only exist, or they only exist in California. And then in 2012, I ran for vice president with Roseanne Barr was our presidential nominee. And then that campaign, I don't really think has anything instructive for anybody.
yeah.
I it was more personally trying for me than politically or universally relevant to anything else. And then 2014, again as a member of the Peace and Freedom Party, I ran for governor of California.
So, okay, so in each case, first of all, as a non-party party, basically, the first time you ran against Pelosi, without a party, without being the candidate of a party, no
Mm-hmm.
primaries, none of that. You just petition. You need a lot more signatures, I assume, in California doing that also than you do for one of the parties. And then you have to stay on the ballot because they get challenged. And then when you registered in the Peace and Freedom Party, that authorized you to carry for signatures, carry petition for their whatever percentage. So that was
Mm-hmm.
probably much easier in terms of ballot access.
Yes, but well, yes, but in 2012, um, we were running for president, vice
So
president,
that's
and so
statewide instead of the Bay Area.
that has a completely different set of rules than
Oh
running
yeah,
for
that's different.
state or local
Yeah,
offices. So yeah,
yeah, it's different. You're right. And plus, it's a statewide office. You're running in California for president, vice president,
right,
not just the county in Bay Area or the
right,
congressional
right.
district in Bay Area. All right. So, first of all, running against Pelosi. So you had people petition to get you on the ballot. Were there any challenges to the petition?
So San Francisco is really unique because it is the city and county of San Francisco, and like I said, it's just like a 7 by 7 square mile thing on the San Francisco Peninsula. So
The coterminous. Yeah.
yeah, so it's really just like here, and so now I'm like Pelosi, moving my hands around like a lunatic.
Well,
I'm gonna like tie them together down here, and so the the secretary of elections. So she's like the what do they call that department? I can't think.
Board of Elections or
Well, yeah, but it's also like
the
It's
Department of
like a
State.
Secretary of State,
Right.
only it's a secretary. So she's in charge of elections
Right.
and many other things.
Right.
So that was literally like uh, a quarter of a mile away from our campaign office. So was the city hall and county offices where she was. And so we needed like to get on the ballot. If you're affiliated with a party, you need 100 signatures for the primaries, right? This is for the primaries. I didn't have to run in the primaries because, I was independent. So you only need a percentage of the people in your party who voted last time.
Right.
And so if I had run as Peace and Freedom, I could have had a very low signature gathering. But also in California, you have to be registered with the political party you're going to run with
Right.
a year before. And so I was registered Democrat. And in 2007, I changed. When I announced I was going to run against Pelosi, somebody reached out to us and he said, a Ballotpedia guy, Richard.
Yeah, Richard Winger.
Yeah. He reached out to us and said, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Just so knowledgeable, so willing to help third-party independents, get on ballot.
He's very, very helpful. And
Wonderful
he's very
guy.
knowledgeable. Yep.
Yeah, and so he said, you need to, if you're not going to run as a Democrat, like within days, you're going to need to change your registration. So I changed it to decline to state, which was California's independent. A funny story, really quick, a diversion. So when I was running against Pelosi in 2008, the atrocious Gavin Newsom was mayor of San Francisco. And he got married that year. And he married somebody who was a Republican. And she wanted to change her registration, but she didn't want to be a Democrat. So she registered with the American Independent Party, which is a far right wing.
Yes,
not
it is.
Independent. It's like white supremacist, white right wing reactionary.
Kind of loony. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of funny when that was going on. And so another funny thing about that is Gavin Newsom has suggested that Californians don't go to Montana because of their abortion restrictions. But guess where he is right now?
Montana.
Vacationing in Montana because his wife's parents own a ranch there. He's always like, you just got to do what I say. Don't why are you always looking at what I'm doing? I can go to dinners, in prohibited dinners.
I wonder if he's dropping in on the Cheneys when he goes to Montana to visit the in-laws.
Probably.
Yep.
And so what was the question?
Oh, no. So go through some of the trials. Yeah.
To get on the ballot for the general election, I needed over 18,000 signatures. Wow. 18,000, Don. And so that is not as easy as it sounds.
It's impossible. I know.
Because you have to have registered voters. There's like tons of homeless people in San Francisco. And so they
didn't sign anybody else's petition, whole bunch of rules.
Well, we had to finally hire people, and we paid them $1 per signature.
Yeah.
And so we were turning in signatures, and most of the petitions were just being invalidated by the city secretary.
Yeah.
And we finally qualified with like an hour to spare.
Wow.
On the last day, but we had to collect almost twice as many signatures as we needed.
Right.
And so I felt it was sometime in August that we finally qualified the deadline. I felt like we had won the election.
Yeah.
We worked so hard. But also you have to look at The media was completely ignoring my campaign. If
Right.
they weren't ignoring my campaign, they were ridiculing
Right.
it,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And not just like not looking at what we were proposing, not looking at the platform or whatever,
Of course. Yeah.
just ridiculing me, ridiculing the campaign. And but that opportunity, gathering signatures, was a huge campaign opportunity to campaign for my, to the signature gatherers to talk about my campaign
Yeah. Yeah.
and things like that. So that was one of the obstacles. And I just thought, I studied math in college, and there's this problem of the jumping frog. So there's a frog, say he's 6 feet away from a pond.
Oh, I know
And
the problem. Yes.
if he jumps
Halfway,
halfway,
halfway.
halfway,
He
he's
never
never
gets
going to
there.
get,
Right.
never gets to the pond.
I know the
So
problem.
I thought we were in a jumping frog situation with my campaign. When I was going down to City Hall myself, to the Department of Elections, checking each frickin' signature myself,
Right.
the
Right.
candidate, because I was the only one that they could spare.
Right.
Everybody else was working really hard to get on the ballot. It was ridiculous.
It is. Let me ask you. So, okay. First of all, one of the problems about hiring people is the way you pay them is per signature. You tend to have a greater garbage rate,
Right.
basically,
Oh, absolutely. There were some
because
petitions that were 100% garbage.
right, I'm going to go to the supermarket and whoever I can get to sign signs.
Or just
Yeah,
sign
yeah, I
themselves.
checked it. There's
Sign
a
themselves.
dollar.
They
And
just
so what
signed
happens
themselves.
is then once you submit these, as your petition to the Board of Elections or whoever the official is in California, but this is the same principle they have in New York. When they dismiss it, there's no such person at that address. They basically say that this is fraudulent. And even if you have 10 signatures like that, they can use fraud legally to
Uh-huh.
outlaw the entire petition.
Right.
And so
And
you
I think
have
they did.
this.
Yeah, that's what they
Yeah,
would do.
they do that routinely in New York also. So what happened? So you filed the 18 or 30,000 or whatever signatures, like almost twice as much of 18,000. What happened?
Right. Let me think. So, okay, so we were on mission. Our campaign office was on mission. The Democrat headquarters was on Market, and they were like, there's streets, like here's Mission, here's Market. So they were almost like directly behind our campaign office. But we were regularly having people bash in our windows, steal our one time. The receptionist for the campaign office, her laptop was stolen off of, they bashed through the windows, and we had, the steel gates, but you can reach through and just
Yeah,
grab,
yeah, 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 yeah.
grab a laptop. They were sending the Democrat headquarters, they were sending infiltrators into the campaign, and we would be like, catching them from seeing, somebody in the campaign would be on their email list, and we'd catch them like spreading lies about the campaign and things like that. And so we didn't infiltrate we didn't care about the Democrat headquarters. San Francisco is heavily Democrat, and we didn't really even have the resources to infiltrate. We
Right,
didn't really
right,
care.
right.
We already knew what they were about, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so the Chronicle, the comical, as I like to call it, what the San Francisco Comical,
Yeah.
was projecting that I wouldn't even beat the Republican, in a city that hates Republicans. I was gonna do really bad, get like 3% of the vote, whatever. That's what they were projecting. And so when they project things like that, that causes some people to say, I'm not going to waste my vote on the
Right, of
Sheehan
course.
campaign.
That's the point of it.
So yeah, that's the point of it. So I did get endorsed by the Bay Guardian and the Bayview Hunters Point historic African American paper. So, and I got endorsed by the Oakland Teachers Union.
Wow.
That's the only
That's
union
nice.
I got endorsed by. They couldn't even vote for me. But like we would go to the Teamsters.
Yeah.
I went to the Teamsters. Oh my God, I had you know me, Don. I had those Teamsters on their feet cheering for me. I can speak their language like the best motherfucking Teamster there, right? Uh-oh. I can't cuss on your show. Anyway, the best mofo Teamster. I had them up on their feet in their very historic Teamster Hall in San Francisco, where during the 30s, like the cops killed some picketing Teamsters right in front of their hall. So anyway, I went to the letter carriers, the postal workers. The workers loved me because I'm a worker, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a politician with a mansion, up on Russian Hill. I'm just a worker. And every single time they still endorse Pelosi.
Yeah, right.
So even though like the workers loved me, the postal workers didn't even hold their vote until the very end when most of them had gone because they had to get up to go to work the next morning, right?
Right.
We blew up the Harvey Milk Club because most of the base members who went every week to the meetings, they wanted to endorse me. But then and it's a Harvey Milk Democrats Club. And so then like the big guns like Willie Brown and other Democrats came to the endorsement meeting, and like we joined, a bunch of us paid dues to get in the Harvey Milk Club. A bunch of their members who never came to the meetings but would like to exploit, the connection. They came, and it was like almost. I left. I just went to encourage people, and then I left. And my people said it almost got into this level of a fist fight. And then the Labor Council in San Francisco, which historically hosted debates between candidates, would not invite Pelosi to debate me.
Really?
They absolutely, and that almost turned into a fist fight too. And I want to say I had a lot of labor support. I had a labor committee. We wrote this labor platform that got solidarity messages from all over the world, right? And so one more really significant thing that was an obstacle that we faced was that we had a bunch of people from my Camp Casey days and people that I, had worked with since Casey died, came to San Francisco on election day. Really, they came before to help, campaign, leaflet, do whatever. But we sat at precincts that day, and the election officials would come out and they would get their tape measure out because you can't be within
100 feet.
Right. And it was just so stupid. I mean, Bill Clinton can walk in any polling place and, hi, I'm Bill Clinton. My wife Hillary is running.
Yeah, right.
He's in a freaking polling place.
Right. That's right.
And so we had people sitting out, and we didn't have enough people to have them at every precinct, obviously. And so we'd stay. This contingent would stay at a precinct for a while, then they'd go. And I had the inimitable Anne Wright there. If people don't know, she's an amazing activist. She's organized as hell. She was in the State Department. She was a colonel in the Army Reserve. So she's like very organized. And so she organized exit polling. My exit polling showed me winning. All of the exit polling we did showed that I won.
Wow.
And of course, we didn't get to go to every precinct. We didn't get to go to every and stay there the whole day. And a lot of people lie in exit polling, right?
Of course, yeah.
But there was as much of a significant margin to factor that stuff in that we believe I won.
The U.S. State Department. I'm good.
No. Oh, I just want to finish this, and then you can go.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So, at the end of the night, when my campaign manager Tiffany Burns was at City Hall looking at the counting, they allowed me, so it didn't look so fishy, to get just under 17% of the vote.
Yeah.
And that meant Nancy got like 71% of the vote. And guess what? I did beat the Republican.
Almost double.
Yeah.
You had 46, the official count, 46,118. The Republican, 27,614.
But I think that they wanted, they wanted Nancy because she's Speaker of the House. So she had to have that, what do they call it? Mandate.
Yeah.
They wanted to give her enough for a mandate, but they didn't want to short me too much because that would look obvious, especially if I won.
So the State Department has a policy, and I learned this. It wasn't hidden, but it's not out in the newspaper. I learned during the primaries in 2016, they have a policy when they do when they make a determination about another country's election, whether or not it was valid, in essence. If the exit poll varies by 15% or more from the official results, they consider that the election was cooked and they don't recognize it. Now, what's interesting is that, for example, when I was discovering this, it was the California primary in 2016 that they sat on the results for, if you'll recall, for 4 or 5 or 6 days, and Hillary Clinton won by some margin that was in excess of 15% over what
was
the exit
poll showed. Was that the primary? That was primaries?
That's the primary, yeah.
Okay.
Against Bernie Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's another thing is I was not a Bernie Sanders supporter, but I'm almost positive he won California.
Yeah, it seemed like it, yeah. And that's what the exit polling indicated, by the way. But that's just for reference. Yeah, you had the readout was 71.87, just about 72% for Pelosi. And then the remaining 28% was split up as follows. You had 16%. The Republican had just shy of 10%.
I had 16.9%.
Yeah. Okay, so it's just shy of 17.
Yeah.
Shy of 17. The Republican had just shy of 10. The Libertarian had 2.25. And then there were like 12 other, write-ins.
Yeah.
So you ended up on the ballot, yes? What, you had litigation to do that, or they just left it alone? You got the signatures, and they said, we're not going to knock her off. They just cooked the results.
Right.
So, all right.
Right. Well, why does it matter? Doesn't matter if I got on the ballot or not, because my campaign was not taken seriously.
Yeah.
Even though we did everything in our power to make it serious. We moved to San Francisco the year before, opened up a campaign office. Guess who was paying the rent for most of the time? Me. Right. I was paying the rent for my own campaign office because, it wasn't campaign yet. We just went to get our foot in the door in San Francisco. And it just really cracks me up, Don, because I'm native California. you know, native Californian. I was born in Los Angeles, moved up to Northern California in 1992. Nancy Pelosi wasn't even born here. She was born in Maryland. She's from a very powerful Maryland political family, the D'Alessandros. But everybody acted like I was the carpetbagger.
Yeah, I was going to say the word you're looking for is carpetbagger.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they all acted, and in California, I don't know if it's with the rest of the country. I think it is. You don't have to live in the district you run in.
No, not until
you could have stayed.
Before you're seated, you have to live in the district. In other words, when you go down to take the oath of office, now you have to live in the district.
Right.
You don't have to live in it while you run.
Right. We could have stayed in our own houses and run a campaign, but we, on considerable expense to ourselves, I'm talking about my sister, Dee Dee Miller, who moved the first time in her entire life she lived anywhere but Bellflower, California. She moved up to be in my campaign. Tiffany Burns, who was my personal assistant, moved up to run the campaign. I moved to San Francisco, which wasn't too far for me. I wasn't living that far away. Right. But like I said, I paid the rent on the campaign office and $2,400 a month, and that place I had to rent. You know, so I was paying like $4,000 a month rent.
Yeah, right.
And so we really did, and we got a website. We registered the campaign with the Federal Elections Commission. Of course, we had our officers in place, everything. We did everything by the book, which is not our style. Right. By the book wasn't our style, but we did everything by the book. And started recruiting from mostly like Green Party, Peace and Freedom Party, some Democrats, some Republicans. I got a lot of Republican support because people hate Pelosi.
Yeah.
But even like people, Republicans would come to the office to donate and sign the petition and tell me if they don't agree with me, they really admire my adherence to my principles and my sacrifice, to make the world a better place. And so, I mean, we did everything to be taken seriously. We wrote in consultation with the community of all these people coming together to work on my campaign. In the beginning, we worked on a platform that not only was national and international, but local, based on the local zeitgeist there in San Francisco, which really a lot of times I wasn't into, like the Folsom Street hedonism fair, things like that, whatever. But I don't care. That's their deal. But we campaigned there and got signatures, a lot of signatures there, right? And so, and it still was ridiculed by major media, or ignored, ridiculed or ignored. So then I think we started talking about this when you wanted me to reach out to Matthew Ho, HOH,
yes.
Who is trying to run for Senate. I don't know where the
North Carolina, I believe.
Yeah, but I know it's in North Carolina. I just don't know what the status is. But the Democrats petitioned to keep him off the ballot. Yeah. And so in California, it's just almost useless to run for political office now if you run for a state office, because the Democrats put in place, I think in 2014, it was after, maybe it was earlier, I don't remember, but we can look it up.
You're talking about the open primary?
Top 2 primary.
Yeah.
And so now it's like they also call it a jungle primary.
Yeah.
You just need to turn in a few signatures to get on the ballot. And so everybody just kind of gets put in the meat grinder. And I want to tell you 100% of the time, now the people who survive that meat grinder are either Democrats or Republicans. Not one third party has survived top two.
Right.
So I wouldn't, I tried it with running for governor, but it was Jerry Brown's second term, and there were probably like 12, 14, 15 people went into this primary. I turned out seventh, so I was kind of like in the middle, but it's just why do we make these efforts now? The third part so the Democrats don't even have to do this kind of crap in California anymore, because they know that, third party people aren't going to get on the ballot, get there anyway. So the thing you have to either do in California is compromise your own political principles and join one of the two parties to have a chance. But I think what third parties and independents in general, the mistake that we make is like going for the show. We're going to run for president. We're going to run for Senate,
Right.
and I was talking, oh, by the way, Dakota says hi. So I was talking to Dakota earlier, and my thing is the only way third parties have to get out of this mindset that they're activists. They have to be political strategists.
Right.
They have to organize politically, and they have to organize in the grassroots. And so when it comes to like offices here, local offices, city and county offices, they're nonpartisan. You don't tell anybody what your political affiliation is, right? So
Right.
you do that, get political power that way, and go from, they say they're grassroots parties, but they want to start at the top. And
Yeah.
I think the Green Party is the best known third party here in the United States. They're national, I think.
Yeah.
They get on, maybe last time they got on all 50 state ballots. I don't know, but it was close.
Yeah.
But they don't, they make the mistake of running activists, non-serious people. And, I don't know. So I think that in the best way to infiltrate the political system is to do it running for nonpartisan offices. And then when you get to a place where you can go on to a partisan office, then you have a political track record.
Yeah.
And you have built a grassroots
Constituency. Yeah.
constituency. Yeah.
School boards, etc., for example. You also ran for governor. What year was that?
I just got invited to my birthday party on Saturday.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Thanks. Governor?
So you ran for governor. What year was that?
2014.
Okay, so that was under the new regime, which was in 2010.
It was 2010?
Yeah, the top two open primary.
Uh-huh.
And so, because if they had that system in 2008, you would have been one of the top two.
Yes.
And then there would have been no Republican running and no one that could point to you as a Republican assistant or whatever. And it would be between you and Pelosi. And somehow they'd have to cover you.
Well, that's giving a positive spin to top two.
I don't mean to give one. I'm just saying.
But I also want to say that that's true. I would have been in the top two in the primaries.
Right.
But I don't think they would have had to cover me, Don, because
they don't have to.
In reality,
right.
the Nancy Pelosi had never really had a challenger.
Right.
The Greens always ran somebody, Libertarians always ran somebody, right. The Republicans always ran somebody, but she didn't have a credible challenger.
Right.
And in 2008, she did, and they still refused to hold debates, to invite Pelosi they didn't want they didn't want to embarrass her.
Yeah, right.
Because they knew she wouldn't show up.
She comes staggering in drunk or whatever. Yeah, right.
Yeah, or not show up.
Right.
And so her campaign manager or her assistant, I forget what his name was, her chief of staff in
Or
San
bartender.
Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah, he he told me, that he admitted to me that they know that I would beat her, and not because they thought I was better, but because they knew that I had no I didn't have to like pretend like I had any kind of I didn't my constituency was the people. The only people that in San Francisco that I had to convince were the voters.
Right.
She has like I don't know how many people pulling her strings,
Yeah, of
So
course. Right. Yeah.
they knew that immediately I would have nothing to lose by attacking her.
Right.
But and she barely even got asked about me. And she would say, "Oh yeah, I just feel so sorry for Cindy. She lost her son, and that's just so painful, and blah blah blah,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever."
Right.
So yeah, even if top two were in place, and it really was top two in the general election anyway in
Right.
'08 with the way that the votes. But we also have a situation.
Well, it
This,
was a presidential election also. So
yeah.
you have massive turnout, that, and so really she got reelected to the extent they could hide it
Hmm.
on Barack Obama's
Hmm.
coattails,
Hmm.
because I'm going to guess they manufactured the vote so that she probably got the same percentage he got of the vote in
Oh yeah,
San
could be.
Francisco.
Yeah, that's probably right. And
Right.
but I want to say we just had a primary in California in June. Very low turnout. Gavin Newsom is up for re-election. It was Gavin Newsom, got the most votes, but I don't even know who came in second, Don. So
Does it
it's
matter?
like one of the Republicans came in
Right.
second. And so I don't know because like they don't talk about him.
Right.
I'm sure it's not a her, but they don't talk about that person who came in second to Gavin Newsom. Because I'm
Right.
going to Google it because now I'm curious.
Well, Obama got 84%, and McCain 14%. So they could gin her up to. Well, first of all, there's a 10-point spread between Obama and Nancy Pelosi,
Yeah.
and that's you.
Yes.
Okay, for no matter what else they did, that's definitely you. So, whatever her real vote was. I mean, if the exit polls are accurate and you actually won the election, then they were able to bury it because it was a presidential election year, and they might not be able to do that on the gubernatorial election years because Congress
Yes.
every 2 years. So, hmm, interesting. Well, anyway, all right. So, I'm sorry I interrupted you. What was the
No, I don't. I was just going to look and see who the Republican candidate was.
for governor?
Yeah.
Oh, just now. Let's see. Let's find out what the result is. California top two primary, 2022. Let's see.
Brian Dahl, D A
Mark
H
Levine?
L E.
No.
Dahl,
The top
Dahle.
is about that. Bing News. No. California, I don't put that. Just primary. There we go. Primary results. Brian Dolly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they
Okay.
pronounce it Dahl.
Dahl.
But yeah, so
Dahle.
I wrote a book. I don't have a copy here right in front of me called I Left My Marbles in San Francisco.
I saw that. Yes.
Uh, the Scandal of Federal Electoral Politics. So if people want more information, they can Google that and get a copy off Amazon and to get further information. I also
Oh,
talk a little bit about my campaign for vice president.
yeah. Let's do that. What year was that now?
12.
Okay. And that's with running with Roseanne Barr.
Yep.
Was that Peace and Freedom?
Yep.
Okay. So tell us about it.
Well, that was, like I said, it's not really, I don't think it's really instructive of what we want to talk about today because still here in California for presidential elections, there still is a primary for different parties. So, Peace and Freedom Party, but the Peace and Freedom Party in their rules, they're not bound by the primary. We nominate our candidate at the nominating convention. So they're not bound by the primary results. So it's still kind of a thing for presidential elections where there are, and then everybody who wins their primary for their political party runs in the general election. So,
gotcha.
you know, Roseanne has a lot of mental problems, and she had been very supportive of my campaign against Pelosi. She donated the maximum amount that you can federally donate. She came to San Francisco to campaign with us. She was very good friends with Cynthia McKinney. And that year, Cynthia McKinney was running for president as well. In 08. Yeah, in 08, Cynthia was running for president. In 2012, Cynthia, I think, was out of the country doing her, her doctoral doctoral work, but she was basically running Roseanne's campaign. And Cynthia called me like a week before the nominating convention because Roseanne had tried to get the Green Party nomination, called Jill Stein a Zionist during that time. And then she turned around after 2012 and became a major Zionist.
Right.
Yeah, but Cynthia called me. I was at Farmers Market, and it was a Saturday morning, and here in town. And she asked me to run with Roseanne, and the only reason was because I had a very high standing in the party, the Peace and Freedom Party. I had a lot of respect from the party members and the Central Committee. So they thought if, they kind of tacked me on, which is the way all vice presidential candidates
a lot
go,
of it,
right?
That's for sure. You sound like the Lyndon Johnson of the left.
Yeah. And the Harry Truman. But anyway, so then we got the nomination. Remember Rocky Anderson?
Yeah, I do.
He actually won the primary that year, but he wasn't a socialist. He wasn't left. He might have been progressive.
He was the mayor of which city? Utah, somewhere in Utah, like Salt Lake City or something.
Yeah, so he wasn't he wasn't socialist, but even like Jill Stein wanted to get the Peace and Freedom Party nomination in the next cycle, 2016, but she already had the Green Party nomination. So we're like, what do you want to have, 2 ballot lines? I don't think that's even allowed. So
which the Greens, supposedly that's against Green policy, by the way. They don't do fusion politics.
Right. Well, they finally did this year in the primaries.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
And so, yeah, but here in California. Yeah. So from that kind of thing, we tried really hard to get on more state ballots, and we did for the first time in Peace and Freedom Party. Well, I don't know, maybe the first time, but the first time in a long time, we got on 2 other ballots, Colorado and Florida, and working like really hard because this is a good thing that's instructive for this video. Every state has different regulations.
Yes.
And in federal elections, for me, wouldn't it make more sense if there were standardized rules for each state if it's a federal election?
This is actually a constitutional question. The 2020 election, as a matter of fact, really, whatever people's opinions are of the people involved, there's a very solid legal argument to invalidate the results of it, because the Constitution very specifically says that with respect to electing the presidential electors, in other words, with respect to electing the president, the laws shall be those that are implemented, promulgated by the individual state legislatures. That's written into the Constitution.
Yeah.
They in essence decided that each state will decide how it participates in the federal government by doing that. We will pick the people that we send to Washington by our own rules. That was the agreement they reached at the Constitutional Convention, and it survives. And running a national campaign, of course, you're absolutely right. It balkanizes, fragments. It requires not one expert but 50 experts or more if you include
Oh
the
yeah,
territories.
no, and you have that was written back in the day when they had to ride a horse from Philadelphia to Washington D.C.
Yeah, right.
There was no TV, no social media, no internet, nothing happening that way. It's a totally different atmosphere that we have now. So, but our ballot coordinator was somebody that Roseanne and Cynthia brought from the Green Party. And to me, it looked like she was doing everything she could. She missed deadlines. Like she would turn in petitions for one state to a different state. So I was like, she's either completely incompetent or she's working for the Democrat Party.
Right. Yeah. Or
Period.
both.
Those are or both. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of instructive for what we had to go through trying to get on ballot on different states. And so you just it's just even the Democrats and Republicans have to do these things.
Yeah.
But it's not a legacy thing. It's like, oh, we always have had Democrats and Republicans, but it's easier for them.
Yes, it is.
Well,
they wrote the
do all this
laws.
stuff. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I
And
guess
they enforce them.
that's about mine. I think there were some. So we were in 3 states. I think in California we came in 4th. So I wasn't convinced. I had left the campaign by then. Mm-hmm. Publicly, even though I was still on the ticket, I wasn't involved in the campaign. And so I think we did respectably. And I voted for myself. I didn't vote for Roseanne because I didn't think she'd be that great of a president.
This is when 2012.
That's 2012. Yeah.
She might have done better than Obama, though.
Second.
But whatever.
That was Obama. Yeah, that was Obama's. And then, and in 2008, when we want to talk about presidential politics, Cynthia McKinney had got the nomination for the Green Party. And she picked a very awesome, intelligent, articulate, radical vice president, Rosa Clemente.
Yes, I remember.
And it was unfortunate because we campaigned heavily in Bayview Hunters Point, which is like the last bastion of anything that's not completely white and liberal in San Francisco. And it was an African-American neighborhood in San Francisco. I haven't been there for years, so I don't know what it looks like anymore. But we got the endorsement of the NOI minister in San Francisco, Minister Christopher Mohammed. Uh-huh. And a lot of it had to do with our affiliation with Cynthia, because I think they endorsed Cynthia and myself.
Right.
And but we'd go campaign in Bayview, and I had at that time like a big camper van. Her name was Jezebel, and we just like blinged her out with campaign stuff. And we'd drive all over San Francisco. And I had a bullhorn, and I campaigned from Jezebel. And I made up a verb called bullhorning. So we'd go out, out bullhorning. But we'd go to Hunters Point, and they'd be be going, Obama, Obama. And I'd be like, brothers, sisters, vote for Obama. But the very next line, vote for me. You know, I'm not running against Obama.
Right. That's right.
You know, but Cynthia did tell me after that she feels like she could have done more in that community, you know, because of course, she had a national campaign, right?
Yeah.
She was going all over the country in '08. But if she and Christopher Mohammed had done a better job explaining, yes, Barack Obama is brown.
Right.
Cynthia McKinney is also, and Cynthia McKinney has a better program
Right.
for us.
Right.
You know, so if you elect the Cindys, you elect Cindy McKinney and Cindy Sheehan, we could actually have an opportunity to get stuff done for us, right? And so the worst thing about Obama, in my opinion, of the many horrible things about him, was he betrayed an entire generation of African American youth.
A whole generation of youth and a whole generation of African Americans.
Well, I just want to say, of course, there's many things bad with him, and you know, he's a war criminal.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
you know, he perfected the use of drone assassinations. There's so many things bad about him, but to see the excitement of people who probably never voted,
right,
to go and vote for him.
Yep.
You know, and then for him to like not do anything for the African community.
Worse.
Well,
he handed Africa over to the Pentagon.
But also look at the cop killings, and not one cop was prosecuted for civil rights violations by the also African American Attorney General.
Yeah. The same. You had the pair of them there.
Yeah.
You'd think that not only would they act aggressively to, straighten this stuff out here, but also fix the historical record. Take a look at the Emmett Till case, at the Scottsboro boys. They reopen all kinds of things when they get power. But that's not allowed when we get power, and as if Obama was representing the people. But he was elected to do that.
Right.
People believed that he was an activist and an outsider, and that was why they elected him. And he betrayed them. He betrayed us, all of us.
It's identity politics on steroids.
Yeah, that's right.
And one thing that was occurring when I was in San Francisco as well was Kamala Harris was the a city attorney, or not the city attorney, the
DA.
DA. And instead of like going after corporations, which she refused to do, and things like that, she's
working for him.
She prosecuted the San Francisco 8, which were Black Panthers who had literally had confessions tortured out of them. And instead of going after the people who are really the problem, she went after them with her pal, Jerry Brown.
Yeah.
And so this Kamala Harris here is the shining example of, like a disadvantaged demographic rising to high. She literally slept her way to the top. So she's not a role model for anybody.
Well, if you want to be a comprador, she's a role model for that. I wonder do they have like a Miami type place for American politicians like that? You get to send Juan Guaido, and I assume this knucklehead in Kiev is going to end up there.
Mm-hmm.
He has real estate there. You go to Miami when your time is up. Do they have a place like that? If you're an American comprador, like inside the empire, some suburb somewhere where they call Miami County or something, and that's where they all go. It'd be nice because if they're gathered someplace, then it'd be easier to put a fence around it or something to keep them away from the rest of the world.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know what it's called, San Quentin.
Yeah, there you go.
Right next to San Francisco.
Yep, we have a chapter here in Austin, Sing Sing. Yeah.
Chapter.
All right, so I guess we're bumping the clock. We're
Yeah, we
pretty
are.
close. Yeah. So, you have anything else you want to say to wrap?
Well, I just did our She Lily show with Dakota Lily, and I ended with for the goddess of peace, for the goddess of equality, for the goddess of good, stop voting for Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, indeed. I'm totally with that. Cindy, thank you very much. And I look forward to your interviewing of me about my political career, as short as it was.
Yay.
Thanks.